program. Took it all the way to the top in 2012, the Dragon Duel WCQ. Trivdei, been a big name for years. Both very familiar, traveling to big events.
And Trivdei starts off with Pot of Duality, revealing Traptrix Myrmidon, Fiendish Chain, and his one copy of Breakthrough skill.
That's that one breakthrough.
You got to think that he's going to take the Leo, though, and start off with a Bottomless Trap Hole of some sort.
Oh, yeah.
Which is actually extremely strong against the Sylvan deck.
Yep.
Let's take a look. Now, Leverett is not running Rose Archer, which is very interesting because most of the success that we've seen from Sylvans has been with triple Rose Archer in the main deck. And it could be that this comes back to hurt him. He's also running Upstart Goblin, which you don't really see in Sylvans.
He clearly just really wants that enormous opening that Sylvans are capable of. Yeah, and that's going to be tough, facing down 3 back rows, one of which was free.
And is Bottomless Trap Hole. He knows what it is.
And there's the Goblin.
Starts with Upstart Goblin. That's 1,000 more points he has to do. I'm really not a fan of Upstart Goblin in Sylvans.
Yeah.
It just seems to detract from what you're trying to do. But if it gets him to his Sylvan Charity faster, then more power to you.
Setting one monster card.
There's pretty much only one thing that can be, but Trivdei doesn't know that yet, since all he's seen is an Upstart Goblin.
Well, this late in the tournament, it's always tough to tell what kind of communication has gone on between the competitors.
Ice Hand comes down for Trivdei, and he summons Abyss Dweller. No, it seems like he knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And he detaches Myrmidon to activate its effect and swing in to the Kumashrumo. He's chosen to excavate.
Vanities, another goblin, book, and a hermitry.
5 excavations, only 1 monster. Bunch of stuff you don't really want to see. And hermitry, of course, will not activate. And Kumashrumo is down. Now, the thing with Upstart Goblin that's especially strange in this deck is that it's not really a non-existent card if you're flipping it up with your excavation ability.
Your excavations or even your charities.
It only doesn't count if you draw it. Plays back to Leverett. Do expect to see a lot more thinking with this deck than you would with a lot of the others. There are a lot of play sequences you have to go through in your mind.
Leverett activates Mount Sylvania.
Mount Sylvania. Somebody once complained to me that Mount Sylvania wasn't as good as the Grand Spellbook Tower because it doesn't protect itself and it doesn't automatically draw you cards and it doesn't give you a special summon. Well, guess what it does do? It lets you cheat legally by putting whatever card you want from your deck on top, as long as it's a Sylvan card.
Stack your deck, blow up cards in your opponent's turn.
And that plays to the strengths of Sylvans because their excavation abilities take a look at the cards on top of your deck, see if they're plants, and if they are, they send them to the graveyard. And then for Sylvans, they all have an effect that activates when they're excavated and sent to the graveyard in this way. Now
and it gets stuff like Spore into your graveyard.
Well, he tossed Spore for Mount Sylvania.
Yeah.
Which is super handy. That'll be good for a free tuner monster later on. Now, it's interesting to note that the Abyss Dweller was not immediately activated at the start of the turn. That's going to turn out to be pretty smart here, because Trivdei will have to use it now during his own turn, knowing that Marshal Leaf, Sylvan Marshal Leaf, is on top of the deck, and will be checked for by Mount Sylvania at the end of his turn.
Yeah.
So he's kind of forced into a sequence of plays, but he has a decision to make. He can either attack the face down, which is probably another Kumashrumo with his 2200 attack Abyss Dweller, and in doing so allow the Marshal Leaf to trigger, or he can detach right now and basically just pass. I mean, he can run into the Kumashrumo, but in that case, Leverett probably
he can force Leverett to try and flip it on his own and expose himself to more risks there. Expose himself to Fiendish Chain, the breakthrough.
Yep, it's just when do you want to have to deal with that hermitry? In the battle phase?
Yeah.
At the end of the turn? It's a very big decision very early in the duel.
I think Trivdei probably knows he's in a somewhat favorable position right now, but the decision of how to leverage that into further advantage is not easy when you're so early in the game and facing such an incomplete set of information.
Now he's taking a look at his extra deck, and it looks like he wants to try to make a Diamond Direwolf play here. That's very smart against what you would assume to be a Setco Mushroom, and if he can pull it off, then he would be able to destroy Diamond Direwolf and the face down card without using his Abyss Dweller effect quite yet.
Soul Charge from Murmelio.
Takes 1,000, but will activate Murmelio's ability when she's special summoned, which destroys a spell or trap. And he goes with the face down, which was a bluff Miracle Fertilizer. That could hurt. Coach Soldier Wolfbark is next. And very seasoned summoning Cane Gorgon, Anti-Luminescent Knight. In that case, it seems like his plan is to redirect the destruction from the Martial Leaf instead of using his Abyss Dweller ability. He ends his turn with that, and Martial Leaf is activated. Or it seems it's not activated because he doesn't want to see it get redirected. Well, he winds up doing it anyways. Can we get Martial Leaf real fast? And Cane Gorgon's effect is chained to switch the target. Now, Sylvan Martial Leaf, it can target any monster on the field. It looked like Leverett was arguing for a second that it could only target an opponent's monster, but that is not the case. So Cane Gorgon has been activated, the target is switched to Kamishrumo, and things went pretty wrong pretty fast for Leverett.
That was huge. Not a lot of cards in that hand.
He's still got Mount Sylvania, but he does have to discard or send a plant from the field to the graveyard every time he wants to stack something. Leverett has a second Miracle Fertilizer, which is a shot in the dark against those 4 face-down cards, one of which is Bottomless Trap Hole.
Yeah.
Soul Charge comes next. The real question is, how many life points is he willing to lose to it? He's going to go for Spore and Komishrumo only. Summon is successful. Leverett loses 2,000 life points. And then he sends the Komishrumo to the graveyard to activate Mount Sylvania's ability. Now, the thing he's got to remember here is that if he tries to target something on the field, Cane Gorgon can redirect it. And if he threatens any particular play from the graveyard, Abyss Dweller can be activated before he gets a chance to use Spell Speed 1 abilities to prevent him from doing much of anything. Two Komishrumos have been banished, and that's to summon Blaster, Dragon Rulers of Inferno, Dragon Ruler of Infernos, which we talked about before. That's a very good thing to have right about now.
So now he has a Synchro play.
Synchro summon for a level 8 monster. Stardust Dragon is probably...
Stardust Spark,
Spark Dragon, one of the Stardust Dragons. The tricky thing with Stardust Spark Dragon, though, is that it is a targeting effect.
That could be the death knell.
Trivdei goes ahead and takes a look at the text, and so will we.
I imagine Tej just registered what we registered.
Fortunately for Leverett, it can only target a face-up card that Leverett controls.
Yeah.
But he has got another one. He's got that Mount Sylvania on the field. All right, Trivdei goes ahead and makes a quick check of his face downs.
Trivdei could have Sanctum.
Sanctum doesn't target. Leverett passes on the Stardust, and Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear comes down on Trivdei's side. Now, none of those are big enough to attack over the Stardust. It's got 25 to Kane Gorgon's 2450. But Forbidden Lance is going to go ahead and weaken the Stardust. Now, even though the Stardust can allegedly protect itself, he's going to go ahead and let it.
King Gorgon real fast.
So even though the Stardust was able to protect itself once, he was able to go ahead and make another attack due to its reduced attack points with Abyss Dweller. It's interesting that he did not choose to redirect Stardust Spark's ability to the Mount Sylvania, but by not doing so, which he didn't really have to, he can keep Kane Gorgon for another
He's just
thing.
keeping those two effects alive. Because the pins are between the Abyss Dweller's effect and the Kane Gorgon's effect. So difficult for Leverett to deal with here.
Yep, he's not going to be able
especially
to
with like the
Blaster
two cards left in his hand.
I don't even think he has enough fire monsters right now to activate Blaster, even if he wanted to. But we're going to check for Mount Sylvania anyways, and at that point, Abyss Dweller's effect is used. So, Leverett does not get to rearrange the top two cards of his deck, but it doesn't really matter, as it earns the concession from Leverett, and Trivdei takes game one. Now, Trivdei actually, he's got a number 106 giant hand, the YCS prize card. I wonder if that could be particularly useful at some point in this match.
Trivdei seems really well equipped for this matchup, especially for games 2 and 3. He's playing Soul Release, 2 copies in his side deck, which has been was a big card coming into the weekend, and saw a great deal of talk Saturday morning. We didn't really see it appear in feature matches, even at the top tables. But now that we're looking at the top 64 deck lists, it's definitely made an impact, and Trivdei is almost guaranteed to bring that in for this matchup to cut off those soul charges and miracle fertilizers.
And while he's at it, he's probably going to bring in both Dimensional Fissure and Macro Cosmos. Whereas Leverett has only 2 Mystical Space Typhoons in his side deck to help deal with them. And none of them are main decked either.
Well, Leverett does also have Rivalry of Warlords, which could prove helpful here.
It could. He's especially lucky in this case because Trivdei only has that one wiretap and doesn't have anything else for traps other than a pair of Mystical Space Typhoons. Although I'd suspect those Typhoons would come in as well to deal at least with the field spell, even though he hasn't seen a trap card.
I feel like Trivdei will probably bring in the Typhoons for game 2. Although for Trivdei, it's a question of like how many cards can he afford to swap out, because he has so many candidates in his side deck that could cause Leverett problems in this matchup.
Like, I think he might drop the Lances here.
Yeah,
because
he's got to anticipate really just like no trap-based interference.
Yep.
And what traps Leverett does have, he hasn't seen yet. So Trivdei may be under the impression that Leverett isn't even playing any traps mained. So,
though, given that he knew right away what he was playing against, I would not be shocked if Trivdei actually just knows everything already.
Yeah. At this level, 2 reputable players, they've probably been speaking either directly with each other or about each other so far in this tournament. Who's taking a minute to just recognize how ridiculous that Karen Gorgon play was? How good was that?
That was pretty good.
Definitely a card we've see some regional top 8 play and some national championships like top cut play over the past while, but still fairly uncommon, and really just a workshop on why you should play that card.
It really just doesn't see a lot of play, and with its attack points, its attack points are in a fantastic place right now, where you need to get past 2,400 things.
Yeah. Now that 2450, coupled with the 1950 DF even, can be pretty valuable, but The effect is deceptively useful.
It's just tricky. A lot of people overlook it because they're not entirely certain how it works.
Yes.
All right. We're back for game 2. Leverett's going to start us off.
Let's see if Leverett can pull off one of those enormous opening turns we've been seeing from Sylvans all weekend.
He starts off with terraforming. He really, really wants to see that Mount Sylvania. Actually, come to think of it, he could sign out the upstart goblins if he needed to.
Yeah, definitely gives them some space.
2 terraforming, 2 Mount Sylvania in his main deck.
Leverett looks markedly happier than he did in game 1.
Yeah. Seems like he's drawn something, other than just a defensive monster.
Yeah.
Starts off with Marshal Leaf. Doing a blind excavation for 2. That's interesting. Hits nothing. It's Foolish Burial and Curry Bandit. Neither's a plant, so they both go to the bottom of the deck. Mount Sylvania's next. 2 face-down cards. And he opts not to use the Sylvania ability. Probably smart here. But Trivdei has the Ice Hand to punish his play. And Leverett uses Book of Moon to flip the Ice Hand down, delaying what might be the inevitable. The tricky thing with Sylvania is that once you get it out there, Ice Hand can really do a number on you.
Yeah. But Leverett's certainly not ignorant of that. He must have some sort of plan here.
3 face-down cards join the now set Ice Hand. And Leverett goes ahead and excavates a Sylvan Sage Koya, which is not useful in this instance because he has no Sylvan cards in his graveyard.
Nothing to reuse. Now he seems to be indicating he's using the effect of Mount Sylvania.
Oh.
Discarding the Hermitry. No interfering MST from Trivdei.
Getting that Hermitry out of his hand is huge, because if he's got any sort of recursive ability, and judging from the fact that he's picked up Sylvan Princess Sprout to go to the top of his deck, I would guess he's got a Soul Charge. Possibly Fertilizer, since he did use the normal summon on turn 1 instead of waiting until he had a more concrete play.
Yeah, that would explain the opening.
But it's one of the 2.
There we go.
Fertilizer. Fertilizer is used targeting Hermitry. Hermitry is summoned. Nothing yet from Trivdei. The effect is activated, and Traptrix Traphole Nightmare is changed. Since the Hermitry was special summoned this turn, Traptrix Traphole Nightmare can swallow it up and negate its ability. And when I said Soul Charge or Miracle Fertilizer, it turns out it's Soul Charge and
Miracle Fertilizer. Throw down both.
Soul Charge for 2 brings back Hermitry and Sage Koya.
Zack Leverett, very good in the sequencing of his plays, not just obviously in this match, but just over the history of his career. He's learned a lot of moves sort of on a rote basis, so he recalls them instantaneously. We've seen him play like Mermails extremely quickly, extremely systematically, and successfully in the past.
And right now he's explaining what the "and if you do" in Sylvan Hermitry's effect means. Even though he does draw a card, it was not the last thing that happened. Drawing a card and sending Princess Sprout to the graveyard are the last thing that happened, so he can form a chain. Princess Sprout, Chainlink 1, Sage Koya, Chainlink 2, and get both of them to the field. Next up, taking a nice long look at his extra deck. We were unable to hear what level was called for Sylvan Princess Sprout. She can adjust from between 1 to 8. I would guess
assumedly be 8.
Yeah, assumedly it's 8 because he had another 7. So he has access to Sylvan High Arbiter, Divine Dragonite Felgrand, Alcei, Sylvan Protector. He's playing actually 2 copies of Araya, the Sylvan High Arbiter, the rank 7 monster from Primal Origin, which is something I've always wanted to do because it's such a good card. I just can't find space for it most of the time. But
there's so many options of rank 7 or rank 8 in this deck.
Yep, looks like he has. Yep, Princess Sprout was in fact level 8. And she's being used along with Hermitry to Xyz summon.
Sylvan or Divine? Leverett asking some sort of inquiry to determine his next play.
And he goes with Alce in defense position. 3,200 defense, very relevant. Lets him excavate every turn. Okay, would have been relevant. Black Horn of Heaven has put a stop to that. But he's still got those 2 level 7 materials around, neither of which has used their own excavation ability.
$5 says that's the one he actually wanted.
Yep. First things first, he goes ahead and uses a tree effect. Hits Sylvan Charity, not a plant, goes to the bottom. Mount Sylvania, also not a plant, goes to the bottom. You gotta wonder, has he counted how many plants he's used so far? And that's why he's gone ahead and used the excavation effect there.
Yeah.
Goes for Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac in defense position. Very useful card to have around, both for its defensive properties and the fact that it can create tokens for you to use for synchro summons. For example, 2 tokens and a spore at regular level is Black Rose Dragon, the second ability of which you can actually use in a Sylvan deck to turn things to attack position, drop their attack to 0. Won some games that way. Also, if you've got the spore in your graveyard along with a Martial Leaf, you can drop the 2 tokens and bring out spore at a boosted level 4 and go for a level 10. And since it's 3 materials, this is an especially good play against Lightsworn to get out of
decisive armor. Yeah. Which has been tremendous this weekend.
As it stands, though, we're just seeing a lot of monsters in defense position. No chances taken because he knows that Ice Hand is there waiting to blow away Mount Sylvania or possibly his face down card. And play is back to Trivdei. He's going to go ahead and flip the Ice Hand back face up. Strong enough to take on the Martial Leaf, or a token. He goes for the Martial Leaf. And Ice Hand is now joined by 2 more spell or trap cards. But in this case, Leverett does have the ability to plink them away with Dracosac over the course.
And Trivdei could be bleeding some cards here over the next short little while if he doesn't do something quick.
He activates Artifact Ignition before the end phase to destroy Mount Sylvania, stop any more excavations from going on, and then Artifact Begaltac.
Is that Begaltac? Yeah.
Very interesting. That would indicate to me that he's got another ignition somewhere that he intends to use to destroy his own Begaltac, and then put a Moral Attack there for Begaltac to come back and destroy. Leverett goes ahead and checks his graveyard. Now he's definitely probably counting.
Yeah.
I believe we're still in Trivdei's end phase.
Could that also suggest that Trivdei has a Moral Attack set?
Quite possible.
And the Begaltac is taken out because its effect can only work on Leverett's turn.
Absolutely. Excellent play. Upstart Goblin is next. Looks like he kept him in.
And Leverett at this point just wants to simplify like crazy since he's popping cards with Dracosac for free. He wants Trivdei to have as few cards as humanly possible. And he still has that Spore locked and loaded.
Taking a look, doing a quick count, it looks like. Activates Dracosac's ability, tributes 1 token to destroy Ice Hand. Now that he doesn't have a spell or trap,
Ice
because
Hand's
Trivdei was
effect
kind
can't
enough to destroy
activate.
him, Ice Hand is out of luck, and Dracosac's other ability brings down 2 more tokens. That's 9 levels worth of tokens.
It opens up a lot of options with Spore.
Miracle Fertilizer is next. And there was, in fact, another set, Artifact Ignition.
Yep.
It's used to destroy the Miracle Fertilizer, and now Moraltak is set. There's only one mystery left to be unraveled on Tej Trivdei's side of the field. And the question is that a real trap or another artifact?
It is a real trap.
And I believe he's got Begaltac. There it is. Which he uses to destroy Moraltak. Now he's got 2 level 5 light monsters on the field, and Moraltok destroys one of the tokens. Leverett was done for his turn. Trivdei's up next, and he's got the Xyz materials for something vastly unpleasant to the Sylvan duelist. He's got a Volcasaurus in his extra deck. He's got Constellar Pleiades, which is the real worry here, because it can knock Dracosac right back to the extra deck without it being able to do anything. Firehand joins the 2 level 5 monsters. And he's thinking about what the order of actions is to leave Leverett with nothing on field. Really, you can do it either way. You can attack the tokens first, or you can just Xyz summon for Pleiades right now.
Trivdei attacking the tokens.
Attacks the tokens. Main phase 2. Xyz summons Constellar Pleiades. And attaches 1 to send Dracosac right back to the extra deck. And now Leverett is doomed.
Yeah.
The Dimensional Fissure is the dagger in this one. He can get the Spore back, but unless he's drawn something really special, it's just going straight back to the hand.
Yeah, Trivdei has him locked down under the Pleiades. He just doesn't have enough action to get around that, the Spell Speed 2 effect.
In this case, he's going to take 25 and 16 from Firehand and Constellar Pleiades. And then it looks like Trivdei is going to use Pleiades' effect to bounce Call of the Haunted back to his hand. That gives him another play on Leverett's turn to bring back Artifact Moraltok in response to whatever Leverett plays to just destroy it.
It's going to develop his field even more while still giving him that
2
that
Hermit
opportunity
Trees
to
are
respond.
banished. 1 from the hand, 1 from the graveyard to summon Blaster. And it's really just the last-ditch attempt that isn't going to get there. Call of the Haunted is up. Moraltok will be summoned, but Leverett doesn't need to see it. He knows this one is over.